Another day, another way that Donald Trump is actively making life worse for the very people who voted for him, this time in Florida. Mother Jones has a story on how Canadians, they don't want to travel to the US right now. I mean, shocker, Donald Trump has done everything he can to alienate our neighbor Canada. Why would Canadians want to spend their money in the US? Our president has threatened to invade them. Trump's illegal tariffs are hurting their economy. Tourists are being snatched up by ICE and detained for days and weeks. There have been tourists from multiple countries across Europe, as well as Canada, who have been abducted by ICE and held for long periods. For no reason at all. Why would you want to vacation somewhere where the American Gestapo might snatch you up? Where the leader of that country has threatened to invade your homeland? And I was actually surprised by this Mother Jones article, despite the fact that my parents lived for many years in Fort Myers. I wasn't really aware of how much Canadians are vital to the economy of Florida. In Orlando, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis brushed off reports that Canadians are increasingly not visiting the Sunshine State. As evidence, DeSantis cited his family's recent trip to Legoland, where he claimed that 80% of the people who were there were Canadians. Yeah, okay, bro, we believe you. So Canadians are the largest proportion, nearly 28% of all international travelers visiting Florida. And according to the Canadian Embassy, Canadians also comprise the largest number of international visitors to the entire U.S. But again, surprise, surprise, new tourism numbers for the first quarter of 2025 released by Visit Florida show that there has been a dip in visitors from Canada. Growing tensions between Canada and the U.S. due to U.S. illegal tariffs and the rhetoric from the Trump regime about adopting Canada as a 51st state, invading and occupying Canada. It's not an adoption. That has contributed to a shift in travel patterns between the two neighbors. Flights from Canada to South Florida have declined 20%. Visual Approach Analytics, an aviation data firm, found that Canadian travel had decreased 20% at the Fort Lauderdale airport and 12% at Orlando's airport between January and March of this year. Canadian travel agents are predicting a downward trend of travel not only to Florida, but all across the U.S. by Canadians. After Trump threatened to punish Canada with tariffs and the annexation of Canada as a 51st state. Again, why are we using this word annexation like Putin annexed Crimea? You mean invade and occupy a sovereign nation. As soon as that shit started rolling out from Trump's mouth, Canadian travel agencies, including the Travel Group based in Vancouver, said that they saw a 20% dip in spring break bookings to the U.S. People were no longer wanting to go to San Diego, LA, Palm Springs, Vegas, or Phoenix. They were all choosing to go to Mexico instead. Stephanie Stella, owner of the travel agency Glow With Me Adventures, specializes in helping Canadians book trips to Disney parks in Florida and California. She says she's seeing cancellations from clients who, quote, just either ethically or morally don't feel right about traveling to the States right now. So there's some speculation that travel from Canada will dip even farther because right now they're seeing people who are continuing to go on their trip because it was non-refundable. It was too close to the date. They couldn't get their money back and they're like, we'll go ahead and go to the US, but we sure as fuck are not going to go there again after we are no longer going to be going there. So the expectation is that you are still seeing travelers from Canada go to the States now because they couldn't get their money back for their trip. But for future trips, they will be going elsewhere. So the economic impact to the US, especially states like Florida, is going to get worse. A lot of Canadians fly to Florida and then take cruises from there. They're no longer doing it. One travel agent said they've seen a 90% decrease in future bookings to the US. We basically saw a complete collapse of this business. Instead, his Canadian clients are choosing to travel to Europe and Asia and Mexico. What began as a protest against tariffs and protecting Canada's sovereignty has now evolved into concerns about safety and uncertainty as increased immigration enforcement becomes an issue. There was the 12-day detainment of a Canadian actress at the U.S.-Mexico border that intensified fears for Canadians. Trump won Florida this round by 13.1 points over Kamala Harris. That's the biggest margin for a Republican in that state since 1988. Again, there's no such thing as blue states and red states when it comes down to it. There are blue voters all over Florida. There are millions of Floridians who do not want this. But everybody in Florida is going to pay the economic price for having Donald Trump in the White House. Donald Trump's policies, his cruel and chaotic behavior, it all hurts every American citizen, including the people who voted for and support him. Nothing about what Trump is doing is making America great again. It is wrecking the things that we care about. Nothing that Trump is doing is making Florida great again. Floridians, all he's doing is hurting you. Trump voters, all he is doing is hurting you. I know that it's difficult to see the manifestation of all of the harm that he is causing, but it's rolling out. It's rolling out. Those impacts are just going to get worse and worse and worse. He doesn't care about working class people. He doesn't care about the American economy. He doesn't care about your quality of life at all. He doesn't care about you having prosperity. Arguably, he enjoys the cruelty and the suffering that he causes. The only things he cares about are the consolidation of his own wealth and power. Every day we learn about new ways that he's making this country worse. He's wrecking everything. The longer we let him keep breaking the law and destroying our economy, the harder it's going to be to dig out from this. Either way, we will have to dig out from this, but the longer he's in control, the worse it's going to get for us.